You've heard us talk about how much it costs. Now, how long does it take? That question is actually a lot harder to answer, but we're gonna try.
We're going to explain how long it's taking us to build our house ourselves and why. There's also a lot of factors that go into that you should consider in your situation. So stay till the end of the video and we're gonna run through some of those.
We're talking about the tortoise and the hare story. So if you wanna get in quick, get it done, just move in ready as fast as possible within a year, you probably wanna buy a house that's already built or go with a high production model where they're cranking them out left and right in a matter of 6 to 7 months. That's probably your better option. If you're doing like us and you're doing a self-build or maybe you're contracting it out, you're acting as a general contractor, it's gonna be a little bit more on the tortoise, right? It's gonna be a little slower. You're gonna have to learn some things, so plan for that.
So progress is slow with the tortoise method, but you are involved in every step of the way. You know exactly how things are done, and you're gonna save a lot of money, which again, we talked about in another video. In our version of the story, the hare does sort of finish the race, but I mean, the tortoise gets all that life experience and, like we said, money.
The further we've come along in this process, the more we realize we don't like setting deadlines and goals. That probably sounds very foolish, but we realized very early on that our goals were a little naive, a little ambitious, but that's okay. And we didn't really end up meeting our goals. So we had to change our expectations a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, we were straight up delusional when we first moved and bought our property.
Sorry, Mom.
What we originally thought and forecasted for ourselves is not what happened. And some plans did change, but a lot of it was just that we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into.
After being constantly disappointed with not making our deadlines or our goals, or we're gonna move in on this date, but we're not even done with the foundation by that date or whatever that was. We stopped setting these hard and fast dates of we're gonna move in on this date, and we kind of stepped back and took a smaller goal and said, okay, let's take this item and let's knock it off the list. That's what we started doing.
These small steps that I didn't even think of before, like breaking ground and pouring a foundation and getting dried in, getting your roof on, these became really motivational for us because we had these goals to work towards, and then of course big milestones for us to celebrate once we reach them.
It's not that we didn't have goals, we just made them a little bit smaller and a little bit more attainable.
Another good reason to set smaller, more attainable goals is for your own fatigue.
It's extremely hard to be building full-time, so intense, but also carry a full-time job. You're trying to raise kids, you're trying to get them to school, someone's sick. It's really hard.
So we broke ground about 16 months ago, and we have not worked every weeknight and every weekend in the time since then. I think that would have been impossible to do. Again, it's one of those things we were naive about and thought was going to happen. It's just not possible. And if we had, I mean, sure, we might be in a house, but we also might not be speaking to one another, or we might be half dead.
Our build project has to work around work schedules, weather, rising material costs, sickness, having COVID twice, and just general physical and mental fatigue. Setting these small goals helps us to schedule a little more realistically, as well as motivate us.
A good example of this whole setting goals is getting our roof on.
At the end of spring, we set a goal to have our roof on or be dried in by July 4th. We had the rainy season coming quick at the end of summertime. We really needed to store our stuff somewhere dry and get it all under one roof. We were just getting bogged down with getting that roof on. We really needed to just give us a reason, give us a motivation to get it done.
For about 2 months, we did push really, really hard. Kind of like I was talking about that you can't do for 16 months. You can do it for 2 months. And even at that, it was exhausting. Every single night, every weekend, of course, doing roof work in the middle of the summer.
People were yelling at each other.
But we got a lot of progress done. Still not the same you're gonna see with a big construction crew, but we pushed things along and we made our goal because we had that short term, about a 2-month goal that we had to reach, and we made it.
It was so awesome to finally reach that goal and be dried, truly dried in, to have storage space, a covered place for us just to hang out or play, and our materials not getting soaked to the bone every time it rains.
We got windows in that have been sitting there for probably 3-4 months waiting to get put in.
It was like an emotional refresher. I don't know how to describe it. When you come out and it's pouring down rain and you see all your materials just soaked and there's puddles on your flooring, it's very depressing. So to know that all that stuff's covered up, and you can see your house start to come to life was awesome. Right now we're installing electric, HVAC, and plumbing, doing all those rough-ins to get ready for installation and sheetrock. We're really pushing hard. We'd like to be in by Christmas, and meaning be in means be in living in it, but it not totally finished, just bare bones, right?
So if we reach that goal and we're able to move in by Christmas, winter, that's gonna be exactly 2 years from when we first moved into a camper and started this whole process. And it'll be about 20 months from when we broke ground. So if you're looking for an idea of how long it can take in our circumstance, again, if it goes well, 20 months to actual move in.
So even after we get the house to where we want it and we're able to move in, we still have a lot of work to do. We got to actually finish the house according to an appraiser, right? To get our financials in order, we got to wrap things up, make this essentially, if we sold it, it'd be ready for someone else to move into. And we'd love to set a goal for that for next summer, I think is a attainable goal. We'll see how it goes.
It's just hard to set one goal until you reach the first one.
Yeah.
To reach the next one. That's our story, but every person and every situation is different. If you are considering building yourself and you want to know how long it takes, here's some really big things you need to consider to see how long it's going to take you.
Number one, your job. Are you working a full-time job? Are you contracting it out? Are you self-building? Really consider that. In our case, I work 40 hours a week, luckily from the property. I do some travel, maybe once a month. We're doing all the work ourselves. We're really striving to contract out the sheetrocking and finishing, but we'll see if money allows for it, but we're really pushing toward that.
Number two, how you are financing your build. If you are doing all from cash or if you're working with a bank can really change your timeline. Some banks require you to be done, almost all loans will require you to be done within a certain amount of time, or even how you buy your materials, that'll change your timeline. So really consider that, because if you are working all from cash or you're saving and building as you go, that's gonna be a completely different timeline.
Number three, how big is your house?
Too big.
How big is your house plan? Are you building a fairly small house, medium, big, all those kinds of questions? That is going to directly affect how much time you're spending. If you're putting walls up, how many walls do you have to put up? If you're building rafters or roof truss, how many of those? How tall? How wide? All of those factors will play a role in how long it takes.
All right, number four, always consider the area that you're building in. When you consider this, obviously you need to look into your building codes and what's allowed in your area with your timeline. Also, of course, just look at your weather and how many good months of building you're gonna have. Building somewhere like in the UK, British Columbia, and Montana, that's gonna be a very short summer and a good build time that you don't have harsh weather. In our case, we live in Tennessee. Pretty good year-round even seasons, but it does get very humid and it's very, very wet.
And number five, your family. Do you have a family? Are you married? Do you have kids? That's a huge thing to consider. If you're single by yourself, in our case, we have little ones. We have a family we're trying to raise and spend time with. And so we've got to put that in the balance. We can't just neglect them and ignore them. They need attention. We want to give that attention to them. So family is very important.
And make sure everybody is on the same page with what your schedule and your timeline and your goals are. Always remember that if you're self-building, you're working with a contractor, everything always takes longer than you want it to and you expect it to. So yes, set goals. If you want to set timelines, do that, but be ready to be flexible and be patient. Does that feel good?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
We just put ours to work.
I'll figure. I'm trying to think.
Like
That was my
rainforest
example.
or
Who's building in the rainforest?
I don't know.
You can't even do that. It's not legal. Probably a couple months. So these. Boom.